My name is Cressida Hale, and I learned the hard way that some colleagues would rather burn the whole building down than watch you rise. For 6 months I had worked on the Sterling project. Endless nights reviewing contracts, weekends perfecting presentations, early mornings coordinating with international clients. My manager, Victoria Chen, had promised me something incredible. The senior team lead position. It was mine, she said. I just needed to finish strong. I was so close I could taste it. The office buzzed with rumors. People congratulated me before the announcement even happened. My coworker, Dorian Keats, smiled at me every morning and said things like, "Can't wait to work under your leadership, Cressida." I believed him. Looking back now, I realized that was my first mistake. I trusted his handshakes, his compliments, his offers to help. I didn't see the knife he was sharpening behind his back. Everything started falling apart on a Tuesday morning in March. I walked into the office feeling confident, ready to submit my final reports for review. But when I opened my laptop, my stomach dropped. The files were gone. Every single one. I stared at the empty folder on my screen, my heart pounding. This couldn't be happening. I had saved everything there. Weeks of work, all the data, all the presentations. Gone. I checked my email. Nothing. I checked the backup drives. Nothing. I checked the shared server. Empty. Panic crawled up my throat. The final review meeting was in 2 hours. Without those files, I had nothing to present. I looked like I had done absolutely nothing. Victoria walked past my desk and stopped. "Cressida, you look pale. Everything okay?" "My files," I stammered. "They're all missing. I don't understand. They were here yesterday." She frowned. "Did you forget to save them properly?" "No, I saved everything." "I'm sure of it." She sighed. "Well, check with IT. We can't delay the meeting. Figure it out quickly." I called IT immediately. The technician, a quiet guy named Sam, came to my desk and checked my system. He looked confused. "It says here the files were deleted at 8:47 yesterday evening," he said. "From your workstation." "That's impossible. I left at 6. He shrugged. "Well, someone with your login credentials deleted them." My blood ran cold. Only one other person had access to my folder. Dorian Keats. I had given him temporary access last week when he offered to help organize some spreadsheets. The meeting was a disaster. I sat in the conference room sweating under the fluorescent lights, trying to explain why I had nothing to show. Victoria's face was tight with disappointment. The other managers exchanged glances. "Cressida, this is very unlike you," Victoria said carefully. "Are you feeling overwhelmed? Is something going on at home?" "No, nothing like that. My files were deleted. I think. Maybe you just need a break," Dorian interrupted smoothly. He was sitting across from me looking concerned. "You've been working really hard. Sometimes we push ourselves too much and things slip through the cracks." I stared at him. He was gaslighting me. Right there in front of everyone. "I didn't forget anything," I said firmly. "Someone deleted my files." Victoria raised her hand. "Let's not point fingers. Cressida, I'm going to give you 48 hours to recover your work. If you can't, we'll need to discuss next steps." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. My promotion was in danger. As we left the conference room, Dorian walked beside me. "Hey, don't stress too much," he said quietly. "We all have bad days. Maybe leadership just isn't your thing." I felt rage boiling in my chest, but I said nothing. I needed proof first. 2 days later, things got worse. Victoria called me into her office. Her face was serious, and there was someone from HR sitting beside her. A woman named Patricia Moore, who always wore the same tight smile. "Cressida, we need to talk about something sensitive," Victoria began. My stomach dropped. Patricia opened a folder. "We received an anonymous complaint about you. It claims you've been creating a hostile work environment. Specifically that you've been dismissive of your teammates and micromanaging their work." I was speechless. "That's not true." "Who said that?" "It's anonymous, so we can't reveal the source. But we have to take these things seriously." I read the complaint. The phrasing was formal, cold, and very specific. It mentioned incidents that never happened. It described me as unstable and not suitable for leadership roles. And then I saw it. A phrase that made my heart stop. "She demonstrates emotional volatility that creates discomfort among colleagues." Emotional volatility. That was Dorian's phrase. He used it all the time when talking about people he didn't like. This was written by Dorian Keats, I said. Patricia's smile didn't move. That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof? The phrasing. He talks like this. Victoria sighed. Cressida, I understand you're upset. But without evidence we can't dismiss a formal complaint. We'll be monitoring the situation closely. I left the office feeling crushed. He was destroying me piece by piece. Promotion day arrived. I had worked so hard to recover from the file disaster. I had rebuilt everything from memory, stayed late every night, double-checked every detail. Victoria had seemed impressed during my second presentation. But when she called me into her office that Friday afternoon, I knew something was wrong. Her face was apologetic. Cressida, I don't know how to say this gently, so I'll just say it. The promotion has been withdrawn. The words hit me like a punch. What? Why? There have been concerns raised about your ability to handle the role. The missing files, the complaint, some feedback from teammates. The leadership team feels it's not the right time. I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Who's getting the position? She hesitated. Dorian Keats. Interim team lead, effective immediately. I couldn't breathe. He had won. He had stolen everything from me. As I stood to leave, Victoria touched my arm. Cressida, be careful. I think you should watch your circle. Not everyone wants to see you succeed. Her words echoed in my mind as I walked back to my desk. Dorian was already moving his things into the lead office. He smiled at me as I passed. No hard feelings, right? I spent the weekend in shock. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my mind. How had I missed the signs? How had I let this happen? On Monday morning, my computer pinged with a message. It was from Sam, the IT technician. You should see the footage from the night before your files went missing. My heart started racing. I messaged him back immediately. What footage? Security cameras. Near your desk. Check your personal email. I'm sending you something. 10 minutes later, I opened an email from an anonymous address. Inside was a video file. I downloaded it with shaking hands and pressed play. The timestamp showed 11:47 p.m., the night before my files disappeared. The office was dark and empty. Then I saw movement. Dorian Keats walked into frame. He looked around carefully, then sat down at my desk. He logged into my computer. I watched in horror as he navigated to my files and deleted them one by one. He worked quickly, methodically. Then he opened my email and sent messages to himself, copying my signature. And then, right before he logged out, he looked directly at the camera and smirked. I had him. I saved the footage to 3 different drives and printed screenshots. My hands were shaking with anger and relief. This was proof. Undeniable, clear proof that Dorian had sabotaged me. I scheduled an emergency meeting with HR for the next morning. Patricia Moore sat across from me with the same tight smile. I played the video on my laptop. I watched her face as she saw Dorian deleting my files, saw him smirking at the camera. When it ended, there was silence. Well, she said slowly. This is certainly concerning. Concerning. I repeated. He sabotaged me. He destroyed my work deliberately. He stole my promotion. She folded her hands. I understand you're upset. We'll need to investigate this thoroughly. What's there to investigate? It's right there on video. Her smile tightened. Cressida, workplace investigations are complicated. We need to follow proper procedures. I'll escalate this to leadership and the legal team. Something in her tone made me nervous. Is there a problem? She hesitated. Dorian has been with the company for 8 years. He has strong relationships with senior management. We just need to handle this carefully. I felt sick. They were protecting him. 2 days passed with no word from HR. I couldn't focus on work. I kept checking my email, waiting for an update. Finally, I sent Patricia a follow-up message. She responded with one line, "The matter is under review." Then, on Thursday afternoon, I got a calendar invitation. The subject line read, "Confidential meeting, legal department." My stomach twisted. Why was legal involved? The meeting was the next morning. I walked into a conference room to find 3 people waiting. Patricia from HR, Victoria, and a woman in an expensive suit who introduced herself as Margaret Lynn, the company's legal counsel. Margaret got straight to the point. Miss Hale, we've reviewed the security footage you provided. We take these allegations very seriously. Good, I said. So what happens now? When is Dorian being fired? She exchanged a glance with Patricia. It's not quite that simple. We need to consider potential legal exposure. If we terminate his employment improperly, he could sue for wrongful termination. I stared at her in disbelief. He committed sabotage. That's grounds for immediate termination. In theory, yes. But his attorney could argue entrapment, that the security system violated privacy expectations, that the footage was obtained improperly. So you're not going to do anything? Victoria finally spoke. We're going to do something, Cressida. We just need time to build an airtight case. I left the meeting feeling defeated. The system was broken. Word got out somehow. By Monday, everyone in the office knew I had accused Dorian of sabotage. The atmosphere changed overnight. People avoided eye contact with me in the hallways. Conversations stopped when I entered rooms. Dorian walked around like nothing had happened, smiling and chatting with everyone. Then the retaliation started. My workload suddenly doubled. Projects I had never been assigned appeared on my desk with urgent deadlines. Meetings were scheduled without me even though they involved my work. My access to certain files was mysteriously revoked. I complained to Victoria, but she just sighed. Everyone's busy right now, Cressida. Try to be a team player. I was being pushed out. Slowly, methodically, they were making my job impossible. One afternoon, I sat alone in the break room, staring at cold coffee. I felt completely isolated. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Conference room C. 5 p.m. Come alone. I arrived at conference room C at exactly 5 o'clock. The office was mostly empty. I pushed open the door and found someone waiting. Lysander Creed. Senior Director of Operations. Known throughout the company as brilliant, intimidating, and impossible to read. He had barely spoken to me in the 2 years I'd worked there. Sit down, Miss Hale, he said calmly. I sat confused. Did you text me? I did. I've been watching your situation closely. He leaned back in his chair. You're not the first person Dorian Keats has done this to. My eyes widened. What do you mean? 3 years ago there was another woman, Sarah Mitchell. Promising employee, up for a major promotion. Suddenly her work started falling apart. Files disappeared. Anonymous complaints surfaced. She eventually quit. Did anyone investigate? Briefly. But Dorian is careful. He covers his tracks. Sarah couldn't prove anything, so nothing happened. He paused. But you have proof. That changes everything. HR doesn't seem to care. HR is afraid of lawsuits. But I'm not. He pulled out a folder. I've been collecting information. Digital breadcrumbs, old emails, testimony from former employees. I think together we can build a case that even the legal team can't ignore. For the first time in weeks I felt hope. Why are you helping me? I asked. Because I'm tired of watching good people get destroyed by office politics. And because I believe in doing what's right. He slid the folder across the table. Are you willing to fight? I opened it and saw years of documentation. Screenshots, testimonies, patterns of behavior. Yes, I said. I'm willing to fight. Over the next 2 weeks, Lysander and I worked in secret. We met after hours away from the office. He showed me how Dorian had used similar tactics before. Deleted files, anonymous complaints, strategic rumors. He had done it to Sarah Mitchell, to another man named Robert Chin, and to at least 2 others who had left before anyone noticed the pattern. He targets people he sees as competition, Lysander explained. Anyone who might outshine him or take opportunities he wants. We compiled everything into a comprehensive timeline. We reconstructed deleted messages using IT backups. We interviewed former employees off the record. We documented every instance where Dorian had access to systems at unusual times. Lysander was meticulous. Every piece of evidence was verified, time-stamped, and cross-referenced. If we're going to do this, it has to be perfect, he said. One mistake and they'll dismiss the whole thing. Meanwhile, Dorian grew more paranoid. He seemed to sense something was happening. He started locking his office door, sending fewer emails, being more careful about what he said in meetings. One afternoon he cornered me in the hallway. I heard you've been talking to Lysander Creed. So, Just be careful, Cressida. You don't want to make enemies of the wrong people. It was a threat. But I didn't back down. Neither do you, Dorian. The all-team meeting was scheduled for a Friday afternoon. Everyone in the department was required to attend. The agenda said Q4 Planning and Strategy Review. I knew better. Lysander had scheduled it. He had worked with Victoria and Margaret Lynn to coordinate everything. This was the moment. I walked into the conference room early. Dorian was already there, sitting at the head of the table looking confident. He nodded at me casually. Should be a quick meeting, he said. Just routine updates. I said nothing. The room filled up. Victoria arrived, then Patricia from HR, then Margaret from legal. Finally, Lysander Creed walked in carrying a laptop. The energy in the room shifted immediately. Everyone sensed something was wrong. Lysander connected his laptop to the big screen. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to show you something important. Dorian's face went pale. Lysander pressed play. The security footage appeared on the screen. Everyone watched as Dorian sat at my desk at 11:47 p.m., deleting files, sending emails, smirking at the camera. Gasps filled the room. This footage shows Dorian Keats deliberately sabotaging a colleague's work, Lysander said calmly. But it's not an isolated incident. He clicked to the next slide. A timeline appeared showing Sarah Mitchell's case, Robert Chen's case, others. Dates, deleted files, anonymous complaints, all connected to Dorian. Dorian stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. You're twisting things to make me look bad. Sit down, Dorian, Victoria said sharply. Lysander continued. We have testimony from 4 former employees. We have IT logs showing unauthorized access. We have evidence of a pattern stretching back 5 years. The room was silent. Margaret Lynn stood. Dorian Keats, effective immediately, you are suspended pending a full termination review. Please collect your personal belongings and leave the premises. Dorian looked around desperately. No one met his eyes. He grabbed his jacket and walked out without another word. After the meeting ended, Victoria pulled me aside. Cressida, I owe you an apology. I should have listened more carefully when you first came to me. I nodded, still processing everything. Thank you. Your promotion is being reinstated. You'll receive back pay for the weeks you should have been in the role, and we'll be issuing a clarification statement to the team. Relief flooded through me. I appreciate that. Margaret approached us. Miss Hale, the company will also be conducting an internal review of our HR procedures. This should never have gotten this far. Over the next few days, things slowly returned to normal. People stopped avoiding me. My workload adjusted. Dorian's office was cleaned out. But something felt unfinished. Late one evening, I was working at my desk when my email pinged. The sender was Dorian Keats. Sent at 2:17 a.m. Subject line, you should read this. My hands trembled as I opened it. The email was long and rambling. Cressida, I know you think you won. Maybe you did. But you don't understand the whole picture. I wasn't trying to destroy you for fun. I couldn't let someone like you outrank me. You don't know what it's like to work this hard for this long and watch people younger and smarter pass you by. I have a family to support. I have bills you can't imagine. I did what I had to do to survive. Was it wrong? Maybe. But life isn't fair, and neither is this company. I hope you're happy with yourself. There was no real apology. Just excuses and self-pity. I deleted the email and tried to forget about it. Weeks passed. I settled into my new role as senior team lead. The team respected me. Projects moved forward smoothly. Life felt normal again. Then one Tuesday morning, something strange arrived at my desk. A certified letter from a law firm. Harper and Associates, attorneys at law. Inside was a formal document, stamped and notarized. Notice of Benefactor designation, Keats Educational Scholarship Fund. I read it 3 times, confused. What was this? I called the number listed on the letterhead. A polite receptionist transferred me to an attorney named Mr. Richard Harper. Miss Hale, thank you for calling. I'm handling the administration of a charitable scholarship fund. You've been named as the official benefactor. I don't understand. What scholarship fund? The Keats Educational Scholarship Fund. It was established several years ago to provide educational support for children with medical needs. The fund has one current recipient, Aiden Keats, age 9. My heart stopped. Aiden Keats? As in Dorian Keats. That's correct. Dorian established the fund for his son, who has a rare medical condition requiring ongoing treatment. However, the fund was never fully funded. He requested that it be assigned to a benefactor, and the foundation board selected you. I felt dizzy. Why me? According to the documentation, Dorian specified that the benefactor should be the most deserving colleague. The board reviewed several candidates and chose you based on your professional reputation and recent promotion. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. When was I selected? 3 weeks ago. Shortly after Dorian's employment was terminated. I hung up the phone and sat in silence. Dorian's son. A scholarship fund. Me as the benefactor. This couldn't be real. I spent the rest of the day researching. I found articles about the Keats Educational Scholarship Fund. It had been established 4 years ago but had struggled to find sponsors. Dorian had contributed what he could, but it was never enough to fully cover his son's needs. I found medical records, publicly available through the Foundation's transparency reports. Aiden Keats had been diagnosed with a genetic condition that required expensive treatments, specialized therapy and ongoing medical care. The costs were staggering. Then I found something that made my chest tighten. A news article from 2 months ago. Local man loses health insurance after job termination. Family struggles to afford child's medical care. The article was vague, not naming Dorian directly, but the details matched. A man fired from his job, losing the insurance that covered his child's treatments, facing financial ruin. I searched for more information about Dorian's current situation. His wife had filed for divorce 3 weeks after his termination. His house was in foreclosure. His LinkedIn profile showed no new employment. He had lost everything. And now I was being asked to fund his child's scholarship. The irony was crushing. For days I wrestled with the decision. Part of me wanted to refuse immediately. Why should I help the man who had tried to destroy my career? Who had sabotaged me, lied about me, and felt no remorse? But another part of me kept thinking about Aiden. A 9-year-old boy who had done nothing wrong. Who was suffering because of his father's choices. I talked to Lysander one evening after work. This is impossible, I told him. How can I help Dorian's child after everything he did to me? Lysander was quiet for a moment. The question isn't about Dorian. It's about what kind of person you want to be. Do you want to continue the cycle of harm or do you want to break it? But it feels wrong. Like I'm rewarding him. You're not rewarding him. He's already lost everything. You'd be helping an innocent child. That's different. I went home that night and couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about revenge, about justice, about compassion. What did I really want? To see Dorian suffer more? To punish him further? Or to rise above it? By morning I had made my decision. I called Mr. Harper and told him I would accept the benefactor role. I'll fund the scholarship, I said. But I have conditions. The money goes directly to Aiden's medical care and education. None of it goes to Dorian personally. That's already how the fund is structured, Miss Hale. All disbursements are made directly to medical providers and educational institutions. Good. Then I'm in. The paperwork was processed quickly. Within 2 weeks, the scholarship was fully funded. Aiden would receive support for his medical treatments, therapy sessions, and educational needs through high school. The foundation issued a press release. My name was mentioned as the benefactor of a scholarship supporting children with medical challenges. The company picked up the story and featured it in the internal newsletter. Suddenly, I was being praised for my compassion and generosity. Colleagues I barely knew stopped me in hallways to congratulate me. Victoria called it true leadership. The irony wasn't lost on me. Dorian had tried to destroy my reputation, and now his son's scholarship was elevating it. But I hadn't done it for recognition. I had done it because it was right. 3 months later, something unexpected arrived in my mailbox. A handmade card colored with crayons. On the front was a drawing of a rainbow and a smiling stick figure. Inside, written in careful 9-year-old handwriting. Dear Miss Hale, thank you for giving me a chance. My mom says you're helping me get better. I'm drawing again now and I feel happy. You're my hero. Love, Aiden. I sat on my couch and cried. All the anger I had carried, all the bitterness about what Dorian had done, suddenly felt small and distant. This child didn't know about office politics or sabotage. He just knew that someone was helping him when his world was falling apart. I realized something profound in that moment. My revenge wasn't destroying Dorian. He had destroyed himself. My revenge was rising so high that even his sabotage couldn't keep me down. It was choosing compassion when bitterness would have been easier. It was proving that success doesn't require cruelty. That was the victory that mattered. Life moved forward. I excelled in my leadership role. My team completed projects ahead of schedule. I was promoted again within a year, this time to director level. The Keats Scholarship became something I was proud of. I expanded it to support other children beyond Aiden. The foundation grew and I became actively involved in its mission. I never heard from Dorian again. According to mutual acquaintances, he eventually found work at a smaller company in a different city. His life had changed dramatically, but he was slowly rebuilding. I didn't hate him anymore. I just felt sorry for him. One afternoon, I was sitting in my office reviewing quarterly reports when my email pinged. An anonymous address. No subject line. I almost deleted it. I had learned to be cautious about anonymous messages. But something made me open it. Inside was a single sentence. I know what really happened. We need to talk. My blood ran cold. I stared at the message for a long time. Who sent this? What did they know? What did they mean by what really happened? I wanted to ignore it. To delete it and move on. But curiosity won. I replied carefully, "Who is this?" The response came within minutes. Someone who was there. Someone who saw everything. Meet me at the coffee shop on 5th Street tomorrow at noon. Come alone. My instincts screamed that this was a bad idea. But I couldn't let it go. The next day I arrived at the coffee shop early. I sat near the window watching people pass by, my heart racing. At exactly noon someone sat down across from me. Sarah Mitchell. The woman Dorian had sabotaged 3 years ago. "Hello Cressida," she said calmly. "I think it's time we talked." Sarah looked different than I remembered from her old employee photo. Older, more tired, but also somehow stronger. "I've been following your story," she said. "What happened with Dorian, the scholarship, all of it. I wanted to reach out sooner, but I wasn't sure if you'd want to hear from me." "Why now?" I asked. "Because there's something you don't know. Something about Dorian that changes everything." She pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. Inside were medical records, old emails, and documents I didn't recognize. Dorian's son, Aiden, was diagnosed 6 years ago, Sarah explained. Right around the time Dorian's behavior started changing at work. Before that, he was actually a decent colleague. Not perfect, but not the saboteur you knew. I frowned. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that desperation makes people do terrible things." Dorian was drowning in medical bills, losing sleep, watching his child suffer. He convinced himself that survival justified anything. That if he could just get promoted, get better insurance, make more money, everything would be okay. That doesn't excuse what he did. No, it doesn't. But it explains it. He wasn't evil. He was broken. I looked at the documents. Bills totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars. Insurance denials. Collection notices. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I want you to know that what you did funding that scholarship was bigger than you realize. You broke a cycle. You chose compassion over revenge. That's rare." Sarah's words stayed with me for weeks. I thought about Dorian differently now. Not as a villain, but as a desperate father who made terrible choices. That didn't absolve him, but it humanized him. I thought about the nature of revenge, of justice, of compassion. Revenge would have been satisfying in the moment. I could have let Dorian's son suffer, could have walked away feeling justified. But what would that have made me? Justice was important. Dorian had faced consequences for his actions. He lost his job, his reputation, his stability. But compassion, choosing to help his son despite everything, that was what defined who I wanted to be. I realized that the strongest revenge wasn't destruction. It was rising so high that the person who tried to hurt you became irrelevant. It was building something good from something bad. That was real power. A year after funding the scholarship, I received an invitation. The foundation was hosting an annual gala to celebrate its benefactors and recipients. Aiden would be there with his mother, along with other children the fund supported. I almost didn't go. The thought of meeting Dorian's ex-wife, of facing that part of the story directly, made me anxious. But Lysander convinced me. "You've come this far. See it through. The gal was beautiful. Held in a downtown hotel filled with music and laughter and hope. When Aiden's mother, Catherine, found me, I braced myself for awkwardness. Instead, she hugged me. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved my son's life. I know what my ex-husband did to you. I know how hard this must have been. But you chose kindness anyway. That makes you extraordinary." Later I met Aiden in person. He was small for 10 years old, with bright eyes and a shy smile. "You're Miss Hale," he said excitedly. "I made you something." He handed me another drawing. This one showed two stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. One was labeled me and the other my hero. I knelt down to his level. "Thank you, Aiden. You're very brave, you know that." He nodded. "My mom says heroes help people even when it's hard. That's what you did." Out of the mouths of children comes wisdom we forget as adults. Standing in that ballroom, surrounded by families whose lives had been changed by compassion, I finally understood the full scope of what had happened. Dorian had tried to destroy me. He had sabotaged my work, stolen my promotion, and damaged my reputation. But his sabotage had backfired in ways he never imagined. It had revealed his true character. It had cost him everything he was trying to protect. And somehow, through the chaos and pain, it had given me an opportunity to prove what kind of leader I really was. Not the kind who seeks revenge. Not the kind who kicks people when they're down. But the kind who rises above, who breaks cycles of harm, who chooses compassion even when it's difficult. That was the leadership Victoria had seen in me all along. As I drove home that night, I thought about anonymous emails and secrets and the messy complexity of human nature. Sarah's revelation had added layers to a story I thought I understood. Dorian wasn't simply a villain. He was a father who made terrible choices under impossible pressure. That didn't excuse him. But it reminded me that people are complicated. That hurt people. That breaking those cycles requires someone to choose differently. I chose differently. And in doing so, I discovered that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming so successful, so principled, so unshakable that the person who tried to break you becomes a footnote in your story of triumph. That night, before I fell asleep, I thought about the anonymous email that had led to my meeting with Sarah. I never did find out if there was more to the story. Maybe some mysteries are meant to stay unsolved. Or maybe, just maybe, that's the beginning of another chapter entirely.